Kurt Warner here on Tiki and Tierney. Kurt, congrats. How are you today, buddy? What's happening?
I am doing well. Thank you guys very much. Good to be on with you guys.
See, this is the power of meeting someone and saying, hey, I want you to come on my show. Kurt, again, congrats after seeing you out at the O'Reilly Auto Parts managers meeting. By the way, that's our big sponsor of our show, Kurt, so we appreciate you on their behalf.
What did that was fun.
No, it was fun. I stayed there forever. I don't think I got about an hour and a half of sleep that night because I got up and left early. But they had a party. I mean, it was a party. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was cool.
Let's get to the Hall of Fame real quick, Kurt, because we know you've been waiting for a couple of years, and BT, he's right. We have been supporting your enshrinement for a while now, and it finally happened. What was the moment like when you found out?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously exciting. I mean, anything, something you dream about, one, to be considered one of the best, and, to be put into that category by the voters and know that you got that place in history is obviously exciting. But I think more than anything for me, it was just reflective. That you guys know I'm a man of faith, and just when you go through a ride like I did, there's so many times that you just say, why me, God? Why do I have to go this route? Why can't I be the number one draft pick and stay with a team for 15 years? And I mean, why couldn't that have been me? But then when you go through it all and you have it play out like I did, and then you find yourself in the Hall of Fame, you kind of flip the switch and you kind of go, God, why did you choose me for this? Thanks for choosing me for this ride, because it's so unique and it's so different, and no one will ever do it the way that I did it again. And I'm very proud of that. And, so it was more reflective on just where we started and where we've come. And for me, now this is kind of like a stamp on the story to let people know that no matter where you find yourself, no matter what circumstances, no matter how good or bad, different parts of your ride can be, you can still finish on the top of the mountain by continuing to believe and working and being ready and taking advantage of the opportunities that you get, even if there's not as many opportunities as somebody else gets.
That's good. Good motivation, Kurt. Well said. Kurt Warner with us here, of course, now in the Hall of Fame and recently named, and we're thrilled for him. And I think so many people, obviously we know that you had to, languish in the minor leagues for a while and fight your way. We know about working in the grocery store. We know how supportive your wife has been along the way. Really earned your way. But I don't know that enough people reference your 1 year with the Giants, because if I'm you, and I a couple of years before that, I won 14 games, and a couple of years before that, I won 13, and I'm Super Bowl MVP, and I'm shattering all these records. And then all of a sudden, I get shoved aside for a guy who at that point was not ready to play in Eli Manning. How challenging was the New York, even though it was a short chapter, how challenging was that? I don't hear you speak about that too much, Kurt.
Well, I mean, it was a challenge from a lot of different standpoints. I mean, thank God for Tiki, because, we just weren't a very good passing team, when I went there. Whether it was scheme, it didn't fit what I did, players on the outside. So it was a struggle just from the standpoint of getting there and going, okay, I've got to play a completely different way than I've ever played before. Yet you still have to find a way to lead and find a way to win in that. And so, again, a lot of people don't talk about it, but Tiki, the year before, you guys were 4-12.
Yep, we were bad.
I mean, we won 5 of our first 7 games that next year. We were doing some good things, even though we weren't necessarily a great team. And I take great pride in that. And, when I ended up getting benched, we were actually a playoff team. If the season ended at that time, we would have been a playoff team when I got benched. So it was definitely frustrating. I knew this was my chance to show people I could still play. I knew I wasn't going to be there long term. I knew Eli was going to be the guy, no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was frustrating because I was hoping to get 16 games. I was hoping to get one full season, kind of see where we could go, and then parlay that into another opportunity. And, of course, Eli would take over and all of those things. So, it's tough to be put in that place, especially, when you know that you're better than the guy that takes your position. But at the same time, I give, Tom Coughlin a lot of credit. And he's a guy that I respect greatly, because when he brought me into that office and told me I wasn't going to be starting anymore, he didn't try to blame me or say it was because I wasn't playing well or that Eli was better. He just basically said, it's something I feel I have to do for this team long term, that I've got to sacrifice a little bit of the now for the long term. And you
Wow.
saw how that worked out. I mean, they got 2 championships because of it.
Yeah.
Those growing pains that Eli suffered there, Tiki,
Yeah.
it works out to his benefit in the long run. But it's, it's frustrating for the guy, in my position going, okay, it sounds great, but it doesn't sound very good for me. But fortunate for me that in those 9 games, Arizona saw enough. Denny Green went back and watched the tape and saw some things that I don't think a lot of people saw, because of some of the issues we had. And it gave me another opportunity in Arizona. Worked out great for me. Obviously worked out great for the Giants. So it was a win-win at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I wish Tom Coughlin would have pulled me in and told me the same thing. So I had a concept of the bigger picture instead. A lot of us other vets didn't appreciate that here. Kurt, I remember when you came to us, you were talking about getting things turned around. I was thinking, man, I'm going to get a chance to be Marshall Faulk. I'm going to get a chance to catch the ball on the battlefield, 1,000 yards receiving, 1,000 yards rushing. But when I think about your career and all the things that you did when you guys were the greatest show on turf out of the Edward Jones Dome, and now I remember why I couldn't remember the first time I was at the Edward Jones Dome, Kurt, because I got knocked out. Toby Wright knocked me out in that game. That's why I couldn't remember. But what did you do best? What was your best skill as a quarterback in the National Football League?
Well, I think there was a few things that where I separated myself. I still believe that my ability to read defenses and react after the snap, not before. There's a lot of guys that were better before the snap, but after the snap, when guys were adjusting, and I had a unique ability to see all that stuff and to transfer all that stuff into what to do with the football in a very quick fashion. And then I think secondly was my accuracy. I would still put my accuracy up against anybody that's ever played this game. I just felt like I was very good at being able to put the ball in places for my guys to either make plays or have run after catch, things that you don't see very much now. A lot of guys can complete passes, but there's a difference when you're talking about accuracy, guys like Drew Brees that separate themselves. And then probably the third thing is just I felt I had great toughness. I was one of those guys that never backed down to throwing while a guy was ready to hit me in the face. But those were 3 things that I thought I did really, really well in my career and helped separate me from a lot of guys.
Talking to Kurt Warner with us here on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio. So, Kurt, when you hung him up, I think we all still thought you had a little juice in the tank. You won 10 games. You threw almost 30 touchdowns. You had a good quarterback rating, but you retire at age 38. Tom Brady's 39. And Tom has said many times, I want to play 4 or 5 years, and I think we all kind of laugh inside at that. But there doesn't seem to be any real attrition, any real physical erosion, at least to my eyes. I didn't play like you and Tiki, but he seems to be pretty close to the same athlete. Is it completely implausible for him to play at age 43 or 44 if he wants to?
I don't think so. I mean, I feel like I could go play right now. Now, I haven't been taking hits for the past 4 or 5 years, but the difference with guys like myself and Tom Brady is we don't play the game physically. You still have to be able to throw the football, but I don't think anybody hits this cliff where all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I can't throw an 18-yard out anymore. Yeah. As long as you keep yourself in shape. I don't know how many throw for 50 yards my entire career. If you know how to throw and you have timing, you don't have to, throw it 100 miles an hour. You don't have to throw it 65, 70 yards down the field. So you play the game with your mind. You play with anticipation and accuracy and seeing defenses, and that's who Tom Brady is that he's not going to make you miss in the pocket. He's not going to outrun you. He's not going to outthrow you from the standpoint of he's got to have this cannon arm. So he plays mentally. And I believe guys that play that way have the ability to play a lot longer, and you watch Tom Brady and how they play offense. 70% of his throws are within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage or less. They play a brand of football that I think he can play for a long time if they can protect him and if they can keep him healthy and so his body doesn't break down. And when I retired at 38, I felt like I was as good as I've ever been. My second to last game might have been the greatest game I ever played in my career. So it wasn't a matter of, well, I don't know if I can do it anymore physically. I felt like I could, and as I said, I felt like I could now. It was more the mental side of it and the grind and the expectation that comes with it that got to the point where I was having less fun and having to live more up to the expectation, and it wasn't wasn't what I wanted to give every time. But yeah, I think it's very plausible that guys like Drew Brees and Tom Brady, who keep themselves in great shape and play the game inside the pocket with their mind and with their arm, have the ability to play a lot longer. Now, I don't know how long that is, but a lot longer than we've seen in the past.
Kurt, I think you're perfectly positioned to answer this next question. It's off the field because of your faith and because of your commitment to your community. You and Brenda have a Treasury House, disability house that you help, a Treasure House that helps kids and those with disabilities. How important is it to use your platform, not just you, but I think all of us in the public eye, to use your platform for good?
Yeah, to me, it's why I'm here. I know I wanted to play football and I wanted to be great in the Hall of Fame and all that stuff is awesome. But to me, all it does is expand our platform to be able to impact people. Because at the end of the day, Tiki, I don't know how many people you're going to walk by in the street that are going to know your stats, are going to know, what you accomplished in your career, because that stuff's forgotten. Guys come in and they break your records and they do better things, and they take your job and they forget about you. And the one thing I know is that the impact we have on people is never forgotten. The people that you've touched personally will never forget that touch, no matter how long they live. And that, to me, is what life is all about. That's the legacy that I want to leave. And so for me, I just believe that from day one when I got into the league is, okay, how do we use this? How do we parlay this platform and this, the way people look at us at this level, how do we parlay that into truly impacting the lives of other people? And so I think a lot of guys have that perspective. A lot of guys do unbelievable things. I wish there was more notoriety that was given to these guys because it's fun to watch guys understand that there's more than just football to life. And so to me, it's always been a huge thing and something that now in retirement I'm looking to do more and more. And as you said, we're starting our first Treasure House, which is a community living facility for those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Tiki, my oldest son's 27 now, suffered a traumatic brain injury when he was 4 months old. So he's done some amazing things, but you get to a certain age out of high school and you go, okay, what's next? A lot of families go, well, he'll just live in the back bedroom of our house and he'll just kind of live with us forever. But we tried that and we realized that we were holding our son back, that there was a lot more that he could accomplish, a greater purpose that he had. And so we went on a quest to start our first Treasure House, and our hope is to be able to build them around the country for other families like ours.
You're a good man, Kurt. We really mean that. By the way, who's going to induct you? Do you have that yet? Who's going to in Canton coming up over the summer?
I do know. I have not. I've not told them, but I do know. I'm going to keep that a bit of a secret for a while, but I do know who's going to do it.
Okay. And final thing before you go, Kurt Warner with us here on Tiki and Tierney. You're a team, and you need a quarterback this offseason. Would you give up a lot? I know it's a small sample, but I know that you've looked at the film. Do you believe Garoppolo can be a franchise quarterback? Would you give up the assets to make that trade?
Well, I think it always depends on what the assets are. In this day and age, we've seen a lot given up for quarterbacks. But no, I do believe Jimmy Garoppolo has the pieces and the makeup to be one of those guys. I love his release, a quick release. He's got a good arm. He's a good athlete. He showed us in the starts that he had this year that he could handle the stage and he could play against some really good teams. He to me is a more known commodity than a lot of these young guys that we have that we're giving up the farm for. So he is a guy that I'm looking at free agency here, and if I need a quarterback, he's probably the first guy I'm looking at. Simply, what if you knew he was going to help me?
Yeah, Mike.
Maybe that's the route you go, but yeah, I do believe Jimmy Garoppolo is one of those rising stars and has a chance to be really, really good.
Well, he's one of the most unique, and it's one of the most unique, polarizing stories in NFL history, and it really couldn't have happened to a better guy. Obviously, a lot more purpose than throwing spirals. Kurt, congrats on the Hall of Fame. Really good chatting, buddy. We appreciate you.